Thank you so much for coming to Reality Edit. For today's video, I'm going to be talking about Love is Blind UK Season 3, specifically the episodes 1 through 8. So I'm going to be talking all about the red flags and predictions for the rest of the season. So go ahead and stay tuned to this video. But make sure you like this video, subscribe, hype, all of the great things so you never miss my content. And let's go ahead and jump right into the red flags. Now, when I'm talking about red flags, I'm talking about the people who really stuck out to me over these 8 episodes. So not just from the pods or from the proposals, I'm talking about everything. So the first person I want to talk about that seems like a red flag to me is Ryan. Ryan started off really amazing in the beginning. He seemed like the perfect person for Cuba. He seemed like everything that she was looking for. I mean, realistically, he was in that moment. Like, they connected based off of spirituality, and we haven't really seen that too much on the show. So it was really interesting to see how they really connected. And they really felt like life brought them there together. But it seems like when they left the pods, life creeps in and everything just goes haywire. And throughout these episodes, he progressively gets worse over time. It's not so much to a point where it's like he does one big thing that makes you kind of side-eye him. He is taking little baby steps, and that's what is causing these kind of minor blow-ups in their relationship. But I definitely think it's going to be a problem later on, because me personally, I think Ryan is so used to being alone that now him and Cuba are together. He doesn't really know how to navigate life. So he really doesn't know how to incorporate her into his working life. And I think that's going to be the downfall of the relationship. I mean, take for example, when he actually went off and he did one of his speeches. And when he came back, he initially said, I just need an hour to kind of decompress. But then as time went on, he's like, actually, I need a few days. I'm like, you need a few days just to recuperate from going out and doing public speaking. Like, I know it probably takes a lot out of you, but not to the point where you can't connect to your fiance, somebody that you're supposed to be married to in like the next 20 some odd days. Like, you don't have time for this. So he started turning into a red flag when he just started randomly disconnecting from Cuba. Now, I know this may sound a little controversial, but I also thought it was a red flag when he had to just leave the experiment overall. And we've seen this in some other Love is Blind seasons where some of the people on there are having some family problems, like somebody is sick or, along the lines of that. And I also feel like they should leave the show when things like that happen, because you're not in the right headspace to be able to date somebody intentionally that quickly. So when he left, I thought that he should leave, but he still tried to stick it out with Cuba. And I feel like he's just dragging her along and just really not trying to make that connection happen. And I really think it's going to make things worse. And even when he comes back home, he's not even connecting to Cuba. Like, he's not, taking that time to sit his phone down and have that connection. That way they can really get to know each other. He's still in his phone. So I just really think him and Cuba are kind of starting to fall apart. And I think that him doing that and taking all of that distance in that space makes him a red flag. Next up, we have Jordan. He initially started off as this really nice, cool guy, and I really do think that he is. But as the episodes progress, we kind of notice his disconnect with Yasmin, and I do feel like he could have handled the entire situation better. Now, Jordan in the pods was really connecting with Yasmin on a deeper level, and I do think that they had a really great emotional connection, but I think when it comes to the physical connection, there was something missing. Because even when they were first starting to connect with each other, all they did was hug, and they didn't really kiss. So that really stood out to me. And I don't know if it was more so of like Jordan or Yasmin. I couldn't really tell. But what made him stick out to me in terms of being a red flag was throughout all of these episodes, he started having these qualms about being with Yasmin. Like, I could just tell that he just was not that physically attracted to her. And instead of telling her that, or instead of just being like, hey, I'm just not feeling things how I thought I would, and I'm going to have to cut things off, he just decides to keep kind of like pulling Yasmin along. But along the way, he's telling other people that he's not really feeling what he should be feeling. And I'm like, well, why don't you tell Yasmin that? He takes so long to tell her what his thoughts are, how his feelings are. And he even tries to make excuses. So like, even when he's with the guys in the pods, he's really talking about how him and Yasmin aren't there yet. But it's like him and Yasmin aren't having that conversation. He's not taking that initiative to let her know how he feels and where he stands. Even when he talks to his dad, I believe, when they went out to dinner, he tells his dad exactly how he's feeling. And he's like, I don't really know. I want to have that connection like grandma and grandpa had. But he's not telling Yasmin that. He even tells his mom on a FaceTime call that he's just not feeling it. It took going through 3 different people before he actually let Yasmin know how he was feeling. And I know some people will probably say, well, he was just trying to protect her because this is her first relationship. That's even more of a reason to let her know up front what you're feeling and how you should be navigating things, and if you're really not feeling her like you thought you would be. So I feel like that makes him a red flag, just because I feel like he was stringing Yasmin along, and at the end I do feel like he made her make that decision to cut off their situation. He would not do it. I know some people are going to disagree with me on this particular take, but I have to say it. I do think Chevonique was a red flag, and this was after the pods, not during the pods. I think she was great, and I do believe that her and Joseph had a very unique chemistry that they should have explored a little further. That's just my personal opinion. But looking back over it now, just seeing how she reacted in certain situations, she definitely became a red flag for me. Now, what made her stand out as a red flag the first time was when Joseph kind of came in and he was telling her that Francesca was more of his priority. Now, I do feel like Joseph could have handled this a little bit better and just, completely severed the connection. So I feel like she turned into a red flag when she started trying to kind of coerce him into choosing her. I don't think that's how this experiment should work. And I think if somebody is feeling someone else, you should kind of just let that go. I will say, just like Kara, and I'll mention this in a moment, I do feel like her ego was a little bit bruised in that moment. She's probably just not used to being rejected. I will say that. That's kind of how it looked to me, especially over time. And then what made her a red flag even more, what made it even bigger, was her conversation when she actually met Joseph in person. I do feel like her connection with Kara kind of made things a little muddy, but I feel like she could have handled that situation a little better. It could have come off a little bit more mature, but I do think in that moment, from my perspective, she did come off a little bit childish in how she started to kind of talk to Joseph and Francesca, and how she was kind of wording things and trying to make it look like she was a complete victim, which I don't think it was in the slightest. And I do agree with Francesca, where I do think she probably came back to try to see what would happen with her and Joseph and see if she could kind of stir the pot. Now, it was kind of hard for me to determine who was going to go in the number 1 spot, but I definitely had to put Kira in here. She didn't go number 1, but she almost did. And I say that because from the moment that she walked in, I could really tell that she was looking for a certain lifestyle that a lot of these men cannot provide. Like, a lot of them are just your average 9-to-5 kind of guys. They are not the kind of guys that can just spend all kind of money on you. And when she talks about how much money she usually expects for men to pay, I kind of was just like, oh my goodness, this is not going to go well for her. So she initially was a red flag just because of the finance thing, but then it started getting bigger and bigger and bigger as time went on. And I say what made her stand out was just how she reacts to certain situations. I would say the first time was when her and Jack were having that conversation when they were kind of letting each other down, like deciding to go with another pick. And I do feel like him and her were kind of being a little bit childish in this moment. But I do feel like Kira's ego was a little bit bruised, and I do agree with Jack that I do feel like she's just a little bit bitter over the situation, and it kind of made her have a chip on her shoulder. And I would say the next red flag is because when she was actually having a conversation with Jack in front of the other couples, when her and Joseph started kind of having that banter back and forth, she really kind of took him saying anything to her very personally, to the point where she pulled Francesca to the side and was kind of like, Joseph really isn't done with Chevonique and he wanted to explore the connection a little bit more, blah, 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 just planting seeds of doubt in Francesca's mind. And ultimately, I really feel like she was trying to destroy that relationship. Now, I do feel like she was trying to mess up Faye and Jack's relationship as well, even though it's not that great. But that was not her place to do it. In that moment where she was trying to express how she felt, at that time, it just wasn't for her to say to Faye that she shouldn't go with Jack, even if she saw some red flags. Like, that is not your place to say it. And lastly, just how she treats AJ. I don't really like that at all. From the moment that they got out of the pods and they actually connected, and how mean she was to him, just telling him what to do, how to organize things, making him make her coffee in the morning and being rude about it, just how she was navigating that entire relationship. And it wasn't until, she had a, major blowout that we don't know anything about because we didn't see it on screen, over him and his parents, kind of having a disagreement on them being on camera, and her just reaction. And it obviously made him upset. And I think that was only when she switched back into high gear because she felt like she was going to lose him. Then we see in the next couple of episodes, she's going to do something else again. So me personally, I just think she's a red flag. I think she's a mean girl, to be honest. And I think she just masks it in a way that makes her seem like she's nice, but realistically, she has that kind of undercover mean girl energy. Last but not least, we have to talk about Jack. Now, Jack, to me, from the very beginning, from the moment that he walked in, his energy and his aura just read bachelor playboy. It did not read guy looking ready to settle down. It did not give that at all to me. So he immediately was a red flag. And just how he was talking to the women, it was more so playful sexual banter than it was even just like trying to get to know someone. And I was really happy when Kira pointed it out, even though she's a villain in my book, that he can even remember most of the information about any of those girls. Like, he wasn't writing anything down. Like, who are you ultimately going to end up with? Are you not remembering them properly? So you're mixing people up thinking this one is that one and that one is this one. Like, that is not good. Like, he calls Faye Fran. I'm not sure why she didn't dump him once she figured that out. Like, if I was talking to someone and was on a deep connection, I would not want them calling me by someone else's name. That's insane. So that was a red flag to me, and it just kept getting worse. So it seemed like Jack was really starting to mature over time. I thought his connection with Faye was actually deepening and making him a better person. But when it comes to her birthday, we see, a little bit of information on the screen that basically Jack did not return home for like 2 hours. He turned off his location and he was unreachable. That is the biggest red flag ever. Like, I don't know how I would feel if I woke up and the person that was lying to me was gone. They turned off their Find My phone. I'm not able to reach them. I'm immediately going to think that you're going out and you found someone else and you cheated. I saw online someone else said that it was Ruggs. I don't know if that's true or not. It could be. Right now, we're just speculating. Me personally, I do think he probably slid out and went somewhere else, probably thinking that she wasn't going to wake up. They had an amazing night the night before. It's like the perfect time to do it. Like, she's not going to be expecting it. And then also just the drinking, that stood out to me too. I was like, oh my gosh, I do not want her to be with a guy that has a drinking problem. Please don't. I hope that she lets him go. But those are all of the people that I feel like were red flags. Let me know down in the comments what you think. Who are the people that you think are the biggest red flags so far? And let's go ahead and get into our predictions for the rest of the season. Now, these predictions are in terms of who is going to get married at the altar, who's going to say yes, and who's going to say no. I'm going to come back to this video and I'm going to figure out if I was correct or not. But in terms of Faye and Jack, I do think they're going to make it all the way to the altar. I think they'll let it push that far. But I ultimately think that Jack will say yes because he really wants to be with Faye. There's no red flags in terms of Faye. Like, she's amazing. She's gorgeous. She's funny. She's the entire package. So he really has no reason to say no. I do think when it comes to her turn, she's going to end up saying no just because of him not really being honest about where he was, and just overall, all the stuff they're going through, it's just kind of turning her off. And I feel like she's listening to her parents a little bit more. In terms of Francesca and Joseph, I know this might be a little unpopular, but I personally, it's kind of hard for me to say right now because it's like a little iffy. They seem great, but there's something underlying to me that just seems like they're both going to say no. And I say that because around Francesca's family, they are very, very strict. Like, they are so serious about marriage. They do not take any of that stuff lightly. So I think that she's going to take in their opinion to heart. And I think think that she's going to say no ultimately. And I do think for some reason there's something with her and Joseph that's not clicking. Joseph was really great in terms of chemistry with Chevanique, and with Francesca, I feel like they're like missing that. I don't know. They're great on paper, but it seems like the chemistry together is just not giving to me. So I think they're both going to say no. As for Kira and AJ, I don't think they're going to make it to the aisle, especially with this blow up that's going to happen in the next couple of episodes. I think that Kira is going to ultimately ruin the relationship with her and AJ just because of her tantrums and her blow ups. And if they do make it down the aisle, I don't think they will last long. I think they will end up bumping heads overall, even though it seems like right now Kira's in a good spot. I do think that she's just going to let that mean girl energy kind of take over and just ruin that relationship. For Sophie and Taylor, I feel like this one's pretty self-explanatory. I think they will walk down the aisle. I think both of them will say yes. And I do think this is going to be the only couple that sticks together throughout all of this whole process, throughout the reunion, and will continue to thrive after. That's what I'm hoping anyways. They seem like they're really, really fruitful when they're together, and they seem to have a really good connection. And I feel like if Netflix isn't showing you that much, then you must be doing something right. Last but not least, we have Cuba and Ryan, and ultimately I think that Ryan is going to break up with Cuba before they can even make it down the aisle. I don't think that he's really that connected to her emotionally. There's something that's a disconnect. I'm not sure exactly what it is. I just don't see them really making it down to the wedding. I just don't think it's even going to make it that far. He's already setting the scene for how things are going to play out anyways, so ultimately I think they're just not even going to make it down there. And those are my red flags and predictions for the rest of the season. I cannot wait to see these next few episodes, and they look like they're going to be really, really good, juicy. I cannot wait to see it. But let me know your thoughts down in the comment section. Let me know your red flags and your predictions. I would love to read what you have to say. And I'll see you in my future video. Bye.